I think it's safe to say that change is on my agenda. Change for good. And I embrace that and I enjoy that change. I don't fear it. That's the bit that excites me, is the idea of being able to bring some change. Not overly radical change, but changes that I think need to happen.
Prince William stops the Garter Parade after Camilla pushed Catherine and left her in tears. Okay, stay with this for a moment, because according to the dramatic account surrounding this royal controversy, Catherine was reportedly left in tears after an alleged confrontation with Camilla, and when William was told what had happened, he reportedly refused to let the Garter Parade simply continue as though nothing had happened. This matters because the alleged incident was not happening somewhere far from the cameras. It was unfolding around one of the monarchy's most visible ceremonial moments, where every movement, every expression, and every person standing beside another can become a headline within seconds. Now watch this. The claim is not simply that Camilla and Catherine had a disagreement. The account says the confrontation became serious enough for staff to separate the women. Catherine was left visibly distressed, and William was alerted while preparations for the ceremony were still underway. His reported response is what makes this story different. Instead of accepting the usual royal instinct to keep everything moving, keep everyone smiling, and deal with the family problem behind closed doors, William allegedly demanded to know what had happened before the ceremony could proceed normally. And that creates the question hanging over the entire incident. If this was nothing more than a misunderstanding, why was Catherine reportedly left in tears? Why did staff feel the need to intervene? And why, according to the account,
so angry. It was anger, and I thought, why is this? Well, it was sort of boy. I thought it was an old man, was probably not a great deal older than me, but and I think.
Did William become so determined to get answers that the ceremony itself was suddenly caught in the middle of a royal family dispute? Hi viewers, if you saw someone you cared about left crying after a confrontation, would you stay silent just to keep the peace? That simple answer matters here, so leave a comment with just one word, yes or no. And if you believe Catherine deserved to be heard before the cameras rolled, hit like, share this with someone who follows the royal family, and subscribe, because doing nothing means allowing the same silence that often surrounds these palace controversies to swallow the story before anyone asks what really happened. The atmosphere reportedly changed almost instantly after William was informed. The royal party was preparing to move forward. Staff were focused on timing, positioning, ceremonial arrangements, and the dozens of small details that have to work perfectly before a major royal appearance. Yet somewhere inside that machinery was a woman who, according to the account, had just been left emotionally shaken. William was not reportedly interested in the schedule first. He wanted the explanation first. That distinction is everything, because once a royal ceremony begins, there is enormous pressure to keep the institution looking calm. A delayed procession creates questions. A missing senior royal creates questions. A visible disagreement creates even more questions. And a royal family member appearing distressed immediately before the cameras begin rolling can become the kind of image palace officials spend hours trying to prevent. But according to the account, William was not prepared to let the pressure of the ceremony decide what happened next. He reportedly began asking the people who had been nearby what they had seen, not what they thought had happened, not what would make the situation easier, what they had actually witnessed. And the answers were reportedly not identical. That is where the story begins to turn. Because an argument can be explained, a misunderstanding can be corrected, an accidental moment can be brushed aside, but conflicting accounts create another problem entirely. They leave someone asking why different people were describing the same moment in different ways. Camilla's representatives reportedly disputed the circumstances surrounding the alleged confrontation. That means the central allegation remains contested, and that matters. The account does not provide a clean public record that settles every detail. What it does provide is a dramatic sequence in which Catherine is reportedly left distressed, William is alerted, staff become involved, and the planned ceremony is suddenly placed under pressure, and William's alleged reaction gives the controversy its real weight. He reportedly did not ask how quickly the ceremony could be rescued. He asked why it was still being allowed to continue. That is a very different question. For a man whose public role increasingly revolves around protecting the future image of the monarchy, stopping a major ceremonial moment would carry consequences of its own. Every second of hesitation can be noticed. Every empty space in the procession can become speculation. Every unusual movement can be replayed. Yet according to this account, William was willing to accept that risk.
This, of course, came as a huge shock, and William and I have been doing everything we can to process and manage this privately for the sake of our young family. As you can imagine, this has taken time. It has taken me time to recover from it.
The reason, reportedly, was Catherine. Not the cameras, not the schedule, not the ceremony. Catherine. And that is the part that makes the next development so important. Because William had heard what happened, but he still had not heard every version of what happened. Somebody in that room knew more. Somebody had witnessed the confrontation closely enough to explain how Catherine ended up in tears. And before the ceremony could move forward, William reportedly wanted that person to speak. So stay with this story, because the next part gets worse, and the people who were standing closest to Catherine may hold the detail that changes the entire meaning of what happened. The room had changed before anyone outside knew there was a problem. Senior aides were moving between the private preparation areas when the alleged confrontation between Camilla and Catherine suddenly became the focus of attention. According to the account, what began as a dispute did not end with a sharp exchange of words. Catherine was reportedly left visibly shaken, and staff intervened because the situation had moved beyond an ordinary disagreement. That detail matters because the people around a royal event are trained to keep problems contained. They know where everyone is supposed to stand. They know when doors open, when vehicles arrive, when the procession moves, and which member of the royal party must be ready at each stage. A disruption inside that system is noticed quickly. Yet the alleged confrontation created something harder to manage: emotion. Catherine was reportedly trying to regain her composure while staff attempted to prevent the situation from spreading.
But most importantly, it has taken us time to explain everything to George, Charlotte and Louis in a way that's appropriate for them and to reassure them that I'm going to be okay.
The account does not establish every word that passed between the two women, and Camilla's representatives reportedly disputed the circumstances. But the disagreement over what happened became almost as important as the alleged incident itself. One witness could describe a tense exchange. Another could interpret the same moment differently. Someone else could focus on Catherine's reaction rather than what came immediately before it. That is how a palace controversy becomes difficult to contain. The people involved may remember the same room, the same few minutes, and the same confrontation, yet emerge with sharply different versions of what took place. Catherine's position in that moment also mattered. She was not dealing with the incident in an empty corridor where nobody could notice. She was preparing for a public appearance that demanded complete composure. Any visible sign of distress could immediately raise questions. According to the account, that pressure fell heavily on her. She reportedly did what royal protocol often demands from senior family members. She tried to compose herself. She did not turn the preparation area into a public spectacle. She remained focused on getting through the immediate situation while staff worked around her. But the longer the situation remained unresolved, the harder that became. And then came the detail that reportedly changed William's understanding of the incident. The accounts around him were not settling the matter. They were creating another layer of uncertainty. If Catherine had simply been upset by an argument, William could have been dealing with a private family disagreement. If there had been deliberate physical contact, however, the situation was different. If staff had witnessed something that had not been properly explained, the problem became bigger again. The distinction was crucial. William reportedly wanted the people present to separate what they knew from what they assumed. That meant identifying who had actually been in position to see the confrontation, who arrived afterward, and who was repeating information they had heard from someone else. That process matters in any disputed incident, but inside a royal household it carries another burden. Nobody wants to become the person whose account causes a family conflict to explode into a public crisis. That may explain why the situation reportedly produced hesitation. People were careful. Answers were qualified. And the longer those answers took, the more William reportedly questioned the decision to proceed with the ceremony as though nothing had happened. The pressure was now moving in two directions.
As I've said to them, I am well and getting stronger every day by focusing on the things that will help me heal in my mind, body, and spirits.
Catherine needed space to recover. The palace needed a decision. The ceremony needed to remain on schedule. William reportedly refused to treat those demands as equal. That is where his role changed. He was no longer simply Catherine's husband reacting to upsetting news. According to the account, he was now demanding a clear explanation from people who were responsible for managing the royal party. The question was no longer whether Catherine could smile for the cameras. The question was whether the machinery around the ceremony had failed her. That distinction would become critical, because if staff knew Catherine had been left distressed, why was the event still moving forward? If the confrontation was being disputed, why had nobody established a clear account before the royal party was expected to appear? And if the matter was genuinely minor, why had it created such a visible reaction inside the preparation area? Those questions reportedly followed William as preparations continued. Camilla, meanwhile, had her own version of events. Her representatives reportedly disputed the circumstances described in the dramatic account. That denial cannot simply be erased from the story. It creates the central uncertainty that hangs over everything that follows. There are therefore two things the audience has to hold at once. Catherine was reportedly left in tears. The circumstances behind those tears remain disputed. That tension is what makes the story more than a simple accusation. It forces attention onto the people who were there, the decisions made afterward, and the unusual response attributed to William. Because William did not reportedly accept that conflicting accounts were a reason to ignore the incident, he treated them as a reason to investigate it more closely. And the deeper he reportedly went into the timeline, the more obvious it became that this was no longer something that could be solved with a polite conversation before the cameras arrived. The ceremony was approaching. The royal party still had to make its appearance. Staff were still waiting for instructions. Catherine was still carrying the emotional weight of what had allegedly happened. And William had reached the point where preserving the schedule could no longer come first. The timing made that decision even more dangerous. A royal ceremony does not operate on one person's mood. It depends on dozens of people acting in sequence. Once preparation reaches a certain point, changing one part can force changes everywhere else. Staff have to adjust positions. Security has to respond. Communications teams have to prepare for questions. Senior officials have to decide what can be explained and what must remain private. That is why William's reported insistence was so significant. He was not merely asking for reassurance. He was challenging the assumption that the schedule had to win. The people around him now faced a choice. They could tell him the matter was being handled and hope Catherine recovered quickly, or they could slow the process and risk drawing attention to a problem the palace would normally want contained. According to the account, William chose the second path. That choice placed pressure on everyone involved, including those who believed the incident had been misunderstood. A disagreement can disappear when nobody outside the room knows about it. A disrupted royal ceremony cannot disappear so easily. The closer the procession came, the less time remained for a quiet solution. And that created another uncomfortable question. What if the ceremony continued and cameras captured Catherine still visibly affected by what had happened? The palace would then face a different crisis. Viewers would see the expression, the distance between family members, the unusual body language, and perhaps the very tension officials had been trying to prevent. William reportedly understood that risk. The account portrays his decision as a refusal to let Catherine's condition become something everyone simply worked around. That is the point where the dispute began affecting the institution itself. If you believe Catherine's dignity should matter more than keeping a royal spectacle moving, prove it with a like, share, and subscribe, because the next part gets worse and reveals the moment William reportedly turns this private dispute into a full ceremonial crisis. The next instruction reportedly came without warning. William had reached the point where waiting for another explanation was no longer acceptable. The ceremony was approaching. Catherine was still dealing with the aftermath of the alleged confrontation, and the officials responsible for keeping the royal schedule intact were suddenly facing a problem they could not solve with a smile or a quiet corridor conversation. According to the account, William wanted the parade stopped. That decision immediately changed the stakes. Until that moment, the dispute could still be described as a private disagreement between two senior members of the royal family. Once the ceremony itself was placed on hold, the issue moved beyond Catherine, Camilla, and William. Palace officials now had to deal with an interruption that could become visible to guests, staff, security personnel, and eventually the public. The timing was brutal. The Garter Parade was not an ordinary family appearance. It was a major ceremonial event with an established sequence and a large number of people depending on that sequence being followed correctly. A pause could create questions before anyone had decided what answer to give. William reportedly understood that. He also reportedly understood something else. If the parade continued while the circumstances surrounding Catherine remained unresolved, the palace would effectively be choosing the ceremony over the person at the center of the dispute. That was the choice he appeared unwilling to make. Staff were reportedly instructed to hold the situation rather than push immediately toward the next stage. People who had been preparing for the procession suddenly had to wait. The quiet efficiency expected before a royal appearance was replaced by uncertainty. Nobody outside the inner circle needed to know why yet. But inside, the reason was becoming impossible to ignore. Catherine had reportedly been left in tears. William had demanded answers, and the answers were still not consistent. That combination created a serious problem for anyone trying to restore normality. One version of events could be challenged. Two versions could be compared. Several conflicting accounts could force officials to determine who had actually seen what. And that was reportedly what William wanted. He did not need a dramatic accusation. He needed clarity. According to the account, people close to the situation were asked to explain where they had been, what they had heard, and what they saw immediately before and after the confrontation. The purpose was not simply to establish whether there had been an argument. It was to determine whether Catherine's reaction had been caused by a misunderstanding, an escalating exchange, or something more serious. That distinction mattered because the title of the story points to a specific allegation, but the surrounding circumstances remained disputed. The claim that Camilla pushed Catherine is not presented as an established public fact. Camilla's representatives reportedly disputed the circumstances. That means the real tension lies in the gap between the allegation and the competing explanations. William's reported response to that uncertainty was what made the situation explosive. Instead of allowing the disagreement to disappear behind ceremonial protocol, he reportedly kept pressing. Why had Catherine been left so distressed? Who had been close enough to witness the confrontation? Why had staff intervened? And why was the parade still being prepared as if nothing had happened? Those questions reportedly placed senior aides in an uncomfortable position. The safest answer would have been to calm everyone down and preserve the schedule. The harder answer was to acknowledge that something serious enough to affect Catherine had happened inside the royal party. William reportedly chose the harder path. That choice also created a new problem for Camilla. If the incident was being misunderstood, then the longer the parade remained paused, the more damaging the public impression could become. If the allegation was accurate, allowing the ceremony to continue without addressing it could look even worse. Either way, the clock was moving. The royal family could not remain frozen forever. At some point, somebody would have to decide whether the parade continued, changed, or stopped altogether. And according to the dramatic account, William was no longer prepared to leave that decision entirely in the hands of the officials who had been managing the preparations. This is where the story becomes more personal. William was reportedly not only concerned about what the public might see, he was concerned about what Catherine had experienced before the public saw anything at all. That distinction changes the meaning of his intervention. A royal ceremony can be postponed. A public schedule can be rearranged. But once a person has been left emotionally shaken, pretending nothing happened does not erase the incident. According to the account, William wanted the people around Catherine to understand that. The atmosphere reportedly became increasingly tense as officials waited for a decision. Then came another complication. Camilla's side reportedly maintained that the dramatic description of the confrontation was not accurate. That meant William was now confronting a disputed account rather than an uncontested event. He could not simply declare the allegation proven, but he could refuse to allow the situation to be ignored. That is exactly where the reported confrontation between William and the palace machinery becomes important. The question was no longer, can the parade go ahead? It became, can the parade go ahead while this remains unresolved? According to the account, William's answer was no. For viewers, this is the moment the title takes on its full meaning. Stopping the Garter Parade was not a dramatic gesture. It reportedly meant interrupting a carefully organized royal ceremony because William believed something involving Catherine needed to be addressed first. That decision would have consequences regardless of who was ultimately believed. If Catherine's account was accepted, William had protected her from being forced straight back into public duty after an upsetting confrontation. If Camilla's position was accepted, William had risked creating a major ceremonial disruption over an incident that had been misunderstood. Either way, somebody was going to pay a public price, and that is why the next development matters so much. The officials were no longer dealing with a family disagreement that could be quietly contained. They were dealing with a decision made by the future king. The parade had become part of the dispute. The cameras were waiting. The royal party was waiting. And somewhere inside that tense pause, William reportedly received the information that would force him to decide whether stopping the ceremony was enough, or whether he needed to confront the people involved directly. That was the moment when the private argument became a royal crisis. The pressure was also beginning to expose the limits of royal protocol. Protocol can tell people where to stand, when to move, and how to behave in front of cameras. It cannot tell a husband what to do after he is told that his wife has allegedly been reduced to tears. That is why William's reported decision carried such weight. He was not being asked to choose between two ordinary appointments. He was being forced to choose between preserving the appearance of continuity and confronting an allegation involving the woman who stands beside him at the center of its future. The longer the pause continued, the more obvious the stakes became. A normal procession would create one kind of story. A stopped procession would create another. But William had reportedly already accepted that risk. He was no longer trying to prevent questions. He was trying to make sure the questions could not be buried before anyone answered them. And if the audience wants to understand why that decision reportedly sent the palace into deeper turmoil, staying for the next part matters. Like this video, share it, and subscribe, because the next chapter takes the confrontation behind closed doors, where the answers reportedly became far more uncomfortable. The doors closed behind the royal party, and whatever could still be explained as a misunderstanding outside suddenly became much harder to contain. According to the dramatic account, the confrontation moved into a private setting where the people involved could no longer rely on the cameras, the ceremony, or the noise of the crowd to absorb the tension. William reportedly wanted the accounts placed side by side. He wanted to know what happened, who saw it, and why Catherine had been left so distressed. That was the point when the story reportedly stopped being about a delayed ceremony and became a direct confrontation over responsibility. Catherine was reportedly still visibly affected. Camilla's side continued to dispute the circumstances. The witnesses were caught between the two versions, and William was standing in the middle of it, demanding an explanation. The most important detail was what he reportedly did not do. He did not immediately accuse Camilla in front of everyone. He did not turn the room into a shouting match. He reportedly asked questions. Who was standing there? What happened first? What happened immediately afterward? Who separated the two women? And why had Catherine been allowed to remain so distressed while preparations continued? Those questions forced the people present to confront something uncomfortable. Even if the allegation of a deliberate push could not be established from the accounts available, Catherine's reaction was still part of the incident. Something had affected her. Something had happened before she was seen in that state. And somebody had to explain why. The tension reportedly increased when different explanations began circulating. One version minimized the encounter. Another suggested the exchange had been more serious. A third focused on what happened after the disagreement rather than the disagreement itself. William reportedly listened. Then he asked again. That repeated questioning matters because it changed the balance inside the room. People could no longer simply rely on a vague description, such as a misunderstanding between family members. They were being asked to account for specific moments, and that is when the alleged incident became more difficult to dismiss. The dramatic account portrays Catherine as someone who had tried to remain composed rather than immediately challenge Camilla publicly. That detail is important because it explains why the emotional impact reportedly became visible only after the confrontation had ended. She had a ceremony to attend. She had cameras waiting. She had a role to perform. But according to the account, William could see that she was struggling. That reportedly changed his position. The ceremony was no longer the priority. Catherine was. Camilla's representatives, however, reportedly disputed the circumstances surrounding the alleged confrontation. That remains an important part of the story because there is no uncontested public record establishing every detail described in the dramatic account. William therefore faced a difficult choice. He could treat the matter as unresolved and allow the ceremony to proceed, or he could treat the conflicting accounts as a reason to stop everything until the situation was properly addressed. According to the account, he chose the second option, and that decision reportedly stunned palace officials. They were accustomed to managing difficult moments quietly. William was reportedly refusing to let this one disappear. The pressure then shifted toward Camilla. If the allegation was wrong, there was a serious question to answer about why Catherine had been left so distressed. If the allegation was accurate, there was an even more serious question about what had happened between the two women before staff intervened. Either way, the incident had consequences. William reportedly made it clear that he wanted Catherine separated from the immediate confrontation rather than pushed back into ceremonial duty before she was ready. That decision may sound simple. Inside a royal event, it was anything but simple. Every change affects another person. Every delay raises questions. Every unexplained absence creates speculation. And once the parade itself is interrupted, the palace loses control over how the public interprets what is happening. That is why the alleged decision to stop the event was so significant. It transformed a private dispute into something visible. The longer the ceremony remained suspended, the more difficult it became to pretend that nothing unusual had happened. And then came the question that reportedly cut deepest. Why had Catherine been expected to carry on? According to the dramatic account, William believed the answer was obvious, because the institution was accustomed to carrying on. The schedule comes first. The cameras come first. The public image comes first. The family member who is hurting is expected to recover quietly. William reportedly rejected that logic. That is where the story reaches its central conflict. It is no longer simply Camilla against Catherine. It becomes William against the expectation that royal problems must always be hidden until the cameras are ready. That reportedly made the atmosphere even more uncomfortable. Catherine was not asking for a public confrontation. The account does not portray her as demanding that the ceremony be destroyed. The decision was reportedly William's. And that distinction matters. He was the person who allegedly decided that the ceremony should wait. He was the person who demanded answers. He was the person who refused to accept conflicting explanations as enough. That made him responsible for whatever came next. And what came next was reportedly the hardest conversation of the entire incident. William turned toward the people who had been closest to the confrontation. The room became quiet. The questions became more specific. There was no longer any room for general statements. The people present had to explain what they personally witnessed. That is where the dramatic account reaches its most important uncertainty. Because the alleged push itself is not the only issue. The deeper question is whether the confrontation was part of a larger disagreement that had been building between the two women. The account suggests that tensions surrounding Catherine's position, visibility, and place within the royal family may have contributed to the atmosphere. If that interpretation is correct, then the alleged confrontation was not an isolated moment. It was the visible part of something much larger. And that possibility reportedly changed William's response. A husband defending his wife after an upsetting argument is one thing. A future king confronting a deeper struggle over his wife's standing inside the institution is something else entirely. That is why the next revelation carries so much weight. According to the dramatic account, William was no longer satisfied with knowing what happened that day. He wanted to understand why the situation had reached that point. And once that question was asked, the people in the room reportedly had nowhere left to hide behind ceremony, protocol, or carefully chosen words. The dispute had already stopped the parade. Now it was threatening to expose the deeper power struggle underneath it. And if that is where the story was heading, then the tears that started the entire crisis were only the beginning. If you think a royal title should never be used as a shield when someone is allegedly left in tears, do not stay silent now. Like, share, and subscribe, because the next part reveals the decision that reportedly changed the balance between William, Catherine, and Camilla completely. The parade was never the real ending today. According to the dramatic account, the most consequential moment came after the ceremony had already been disrupted, when the people inside the royal circle had to decide what would happen next. The public could see a pause. They could see uncertainty. They could speculate about why the procession had stopped. But behind closed doors, the real question was much more uncomfortable. Could the family simply return to normal after Catherine had reportedly been left in tears? That question placed William in an unusual position. He had already made his priority clear. He was not prepared to treat Catherine's distress as an inconvenience that could be hidden until the cameras moved on. But the incident remained disputed. Camilla's representatives reportedly rejected the circumstances described in the dramatic account. There was no publicly established record that could settle every allegation publicly today. That left William with a difficult responsibility. He could not erase the disagreement. He could not force the public to accept one version. But according to the account, he could decide what happened next. Catherine was given space, rather than being pushed straight back into the ceremonial routine. The immediate consequence was that the situation remained separated from the public ceremony while the people involved dealt with what had happened. That is where the power of the alleged incident became clear. A ceremony built around precision had been interrupted because the future king reportedly believed the circumstances surrounding his wife could not simply be ignored, and that decision sent a message beyond the room. William was no longer responding only as Catherine's husband. He was asserting that the future of the monarchy could not be protected by asking members of the next generation to absorb every uncomfortable moment in silence. That does not prove the allegation against Camilla. It does explain why the account presents William's reaction as so significant. The alleged confrontation may have lasted minutes. The consequences could last much longer. For Catherine, the immediate issue was dignity. She had reportedly been left emotionally shaken at a moment when she was expected to appear completely composed. For William, the issue became protection and accountability. For Camilla, the dispute created a direct challenge to her relationship with the next generation of the royal family. And for palace officials, there was a larger problem. How do they restore normality when the normal routine itself has become part of the controversy? The answer, according to the dramatic account, was not to pretend the incident had never happened. William reportedly wanted the matter acknowledged internally before everyone simply moved forward. That decision also exposed the limits of royal image management. A polished photograph can hide tension. A carefully planned procession can conceal disagreement. A smile can conceal hurt. But once a major ceremony is interrupted, the machinery becomes visible. People start asking who gave the instruction, who knew what happened, who decided to continue, who decided to stop, and most importantly, who was willing to protect Catherine when doing so created a problem for everyone else. That final question is what gives the story its emotional force. The account portrays William as making a choice that previous generations of the royal family might have avoided. Rather than sacrificing a personal concern for the appearance of institutional calm, he reportedly allowed the disruption to become visible. That is a significant distinction. The monarchy depends heavily on continuity. William's alleged decision introduced confrontation into a setting designed to prevent it. Yet there is another side. If the underlying allegation was misunderstood, then the consequences of stopping the ceremony could be severe. Camilla could be judged by an accusation that remained disputed. Palace officials could be blamed for allowing a family disagreement to become an institutional spectacle. William himself could be criticized for escalating a situation before every fact was established. That is why the story cannot honestly end with a simple declaration that one person was right and another was wrong. The central facts remain contested. What is clear within the dramatic account is the sequence of pressure. Catherine was reportedly distressed. William was reportedly informed. Witness accounts reportedly conflicted. The ceremony was reportedly placed in jeopardy, and William reportedly refused to let the schedule decide the matter for him. That is the real turning point. The significance is not simply that a parade stopped. It is that, according to the account, William was willing to let it stop rather than allow Catherine's distress to disappear beneath royal protocol. That decision changes the image of the conflict. It is no longer only about Camilla and Catherine. It becomes about the kind of monarchy William wants to lead, one that protects appearances first, or one that accepts disruption when the people inside the institution need protection. The audience may disagree about which version is closer to the truth. That is exactly why the controversy remains so compelling. Camilla's side has reportedly disputed the circumstances. The dramatic account presents a very different picture, and until the competing claims are resolved, the most responsible conclusion is to separate what is alleged from what is established. But there is one thing the story makes impossible to ignore. Catherine's reported tears were not the end of the incident. They were the moment William reportedly decided that something had to change, and the alleged decision to stop the Garter Parade became the symbol of that refusal. The ceremony could wait, the questions could not. If that decision was made because William believed Catherine had been treated unfairly, then it represented a serious line being drawn inside the royal family. If the account was wrong, then it represented an equally serious warning about how quickly an unverified confrontation can become an institutional crisis. Either way, the consequences are bigger than one afternoon. Every future public appearance involving William, Catherine, and Camilla will inevitably be viewed through the possibility of renewed tension. Every unusual distance, every expression, every change in positioning can invite speculation. That is the danger created when a private disagreement becomes a public royal story. And perhaps that is why this controversy has attracted so much attention. The Garter Parade represents order. The alleged confrontation represented disorder. William's reported intervention placed those two forces directly against each other. For Catherine, the question was whether she had to endure the moment quietly. For William, the question was whether protecting the institution meant protecting its appearance at all costs. For Camilla, the question was whether her position within the family could survive another public confrontation with the generation that will eventually inherit the crown. Those questions do not disappear when the cameras stop. They follow the family into the next ceremony, the next appearance, and the next moment when all three are expected to stand together and smile. So the lasting image is not simply a stopped procession, it is a choice. According to the dramatic account, William chose to stop the ceremony rather than allow Catherine's distress to be treated as something inconvenient. Whether every detail of the allegation is eventually confirmed or challenged, that choice is the reason the story matters. Because when a royal ceremony stops, people ask what went wrong, and when it stops because the future king reportedly refuses to let his wife be pushed aside, people ask an even bigger question. What happens the next time the same family conflict reaches the cameras? That is the question this controversy leaves behind. And if viewers believe Catherine's voice should never be buried simply because the palace wants the picture to look perfect, then silence only helps the people who want uncomfortable questions forgotten. Like this video, share it, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notifications. Do not let the story disappear quietly, because the next video coming to this channel goes even deeper, and what comes next may be worse, more revealing, and far more difficult for the palace to explain.